Prayer be acceptable to you, eternal God. In your great kindness, answer us with your saving truth. Please be seated. And welcome to Kingston Liberal Synagogue for those who come for the first time. Welcome to our regulars, and welcome also for all of you who are watching us online today. Today is a very, very special day. Rebecca will be roasted and grilled for a bat mitzvah. No, I promise.
And so it begins.
Yes, so it begins. Sorry. I really try to be really kind.
Forget it.
Don't worry. So it's a very special day. Another bat mitzvah is a very special moment. It's a moment where someone who, for some reasons, didn't have a bat mitzvah at the age of 13 or don't want to renew the affirmation that the bat mitzvah is, at a certain age, she just reached 50, which is a great age, and the age of wisdom. And look, your dad, he's really laughing. Oh, God, I've got good audience.
I can see how this is going to go.
Yeah. I'm in the right place, the right corner, yeah.
I've got Rabbi dad,
yeah,
excellent.
Exactly.
It's like
Brilliant.
my worst nightmare. I am dressed, right? I mean.
So Shabbat Shalom to you all, and we are on page 5.
We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. And please read responsively. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for eyes to see.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for clothes to wear.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the joy of freedom.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the power to rise.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for providing for all our needs.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for daily renewing our strength.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the blessing of sleep and the privilege of waking to a new day. And now I'd like to invite my very good friends Dory and Jane to come up and give the first reading.
We can go there, yes.
Everyone sang by Siegfried Sassoon. Everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight as prisoned birds must find in freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on, and out of sight.
Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted, and beauty came like the setting sun. My heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Oh, but everyone was a bird, and the song was wordless. The singing will never be done.
On page 7. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי יסוף ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימרתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך אענן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. צדיק אתה מה יפתח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו, עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולא עוולתה בו.
Please stand. Praise be your name, eternal God in heaven and on earth. To you, our God and God of our ancestors, let hymns and psalms be sung. To you all praise and thanks are due, from now and forever.
We praise you, O God. May you accept our songs of praise. La 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 ya la ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai, Amevorach, Amevorach, Baruch Adonai, Amevorach. Let's place over there. Praise be the one to whom my praise is due. Praise be the one to whom my praise is due. Praise be the one to whom my praise is due, now and forever. la 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 la, la 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 la. Pray be seated.
We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe, Maker of light and Creator of darkness, Author of peace and Creator of all things. In your mercy you give light to the earth and all who live on it, and in your goodness you renew creation continually, day by day. How manifold are your works, O God! With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory.
We praise you, God, Creator of light.
Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity.
We praise you, God. In love you have called the people Israel to serve you.
Please stand.
And on page 9, Shema Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavecha, u'v'chol nefshecha, u'v'chol mevodecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'anei, asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'lechtecha v'derech, u'v'shobecha u'kumecha, u'kshatam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Please be seated.
We're on page 10. Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words, now and forever. The everlasting God is sovereign, the rock of Jacob, the shield of salvation. Eternal God, you redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then, with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלי.
The redeemed sang a new song to your name at the shore of the sea. Saved from destruction, they acknowledged your sovereign power by saying,
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, גואלנו אדוני, צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל ישראל, גל ישראל, ישראל. Please stand, we're on page 11 for the Amidah. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzhak ve'Elokei Yaakov, Elokei Sarah, Elokei Rivka, Elokei Rachel ve'Elokei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזורח חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומשה ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד אתה. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, צומק נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום אליו, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיע ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים. Please be seated. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, והוא מותן והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדורות. נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושברך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש, הקדוש. We're on page 13 now, 13. ישמחו במלכותה, ישמחו במלכותה, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג. המקדש שביעי, המקדש שביעי, כולם ישמעו וינתנגו מטובך. והשביעי, והשביעי, רצית בו וקידשתו. חמדת ימים, חמדת ימים, אותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your salvation and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace.
We praise you, God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight.
We praise you, God, whom alone we worship in reverence.
We give thanks that you, Eternal One, are our God, as you were the God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. And we're on page 14.
שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך, ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד, באור פניך כי באור פניך נתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך, תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך, וטוב וטוב בעינך לברך את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני יוסי השלום. And at this moment in the service we take a few moments for private prayer meditation. We have a sort of me time now. You can reflect on what happened before we get to the next part, which is the Torah service. So I invite you to sit wherever you want. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, God, my rock and my redeemer. יהיו לרצון אמרפי, יהיו לרצון אמרפי, והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני, צורי וגואלי. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל בני אדם. So we usually do after the Amidah Visya, say Shalom, clapping the hands, because sometimes you fall asleep, so we just want to... No one fell asleep today, which is a blessing.
I hope not.
Sorry? Good myself. So I've got 5,000 words of sermon, so you can have a nap later. It's okay. So we have a meditation before reading the Torah.
And I would like to invite my good friend Antonia up to read with us.
We are the people of the world, and the breath of the word fills our minds with light. We are the people of the word, and the breath of life sings through us, playing on the pipes of our bones and the strings of our sinews, an ancient song carved in the Laurentian granite, and as new as a spring azure butterfly just drying her wings in a moment's splash of sun. We must live with the word and make it real. We are the people of the book, and the letters march, busy as ants, carrying the work of the ages through our minds. We are the people of the book. Through fire and mud and dust, we have borne our scrolls, tenderly as a baby swaddled in a blanket, travelling with our words sewn in our clothes and carried on our backs. Let us take up the scroll of the Torah and dance with it and touch it and read it aloud, for the mind touches the word and makes it light. So does light enter us, and we shine.
So the Torah service starts on page 15. Just a few words before we get into this part of the service. We are supposed to read Torah 3 times a week, on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And when we read Torah on Shabbat morning, we are actually reenacting what happened at Mount Sinai. Nothing less than that, of course. We're Jews.
Exactly.
So Mount Sinai's revelation is reenacted every Shabbat when we read from the Torah scroll. And after the reading, for those who have never seen a scroll in your life, you will be invited to come and have a look. Because it's quite weird, actually, yeah? Right?
It's beautiful. It's the word you're looking for, not weird, Rabbi.
Sorry, thank you. So she gave me the look, but now she gave me
Weird.
Yeah, sorry, Rebecca. I didn't want to ruin your bat mitzvah.
It's all right. You're doing okay so far.
It's okay. Okay, so let's go back. So that's the purpose of the Torah service is to read from the scroll. And Rebecca will lein it. Leinen in Yiddish means to read, but it actually means to chant the Torah scroll. So she's worked very hard to learn how to chant the scroll, which is the traditional way of reading from it.
Okay. Assemble the people, the men and the women and the children and the strangers in your cities, to hear and learn to revere the Eternal One, your God, and observe faithfully all the precepts of this Torah. And let their children who do not know it yet hear, that they too may learn to revere the Eternal One, your God. Please stand. And then Louisa come up, yeah? And where am I? Leo and Louisa.
Leo is here. Louisa.
Yeah,
והארננו בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך. We're sitting there. I don't remember. בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך ואהבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך. And turn towards the congregation and we say Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadolul Adonai iti uneromama, Shemo yartav, don't flee away. It's not finished. Have a seat.
And Norman and
Okay.
Yeah.
דברים העולם, העולם עומד על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם, העולם עומד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. Are you okay? Oops.
Torah camp.
Okay, so Craig,
Sorry, Craig.
you're gonna hate me now.
Might be better there, actually.
Oh, okay.
Please be seated. It's better. So, if I open, can you see? Yeah.
Where's my blessing?
תעמוד לקרוא בתורה רבקה בת דוד. So you take that. Where's the Torah blessing?
It was there a minute ago.
We should know everything by heart.
I know,
actually.
I do. I'm just very nervous.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Okay. Baraku et Adonai Hamavorach.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach La'olam Vayed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mechol ha'amim v'natan la'anu et toratu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
So you will find the Torah reading on page 17 in your service booklet. It's weird, no?
What's that?
Okay.
Vayedebe Adonai el Moshe b'cha Sinai lemor daber el bnei Israel v'amata Elochem ki tavohu el haaretz asher ani noten lachem v'shavta haaretz Shabbat l'Adonai Sheish shanim tetzva sadecha v'sheish shanim tetzmoch hamecha v'asafta et tavuata Uv'shana hashvi'it Shabbat Shabbaton yihyeh la'aretz Shabbat l'Adonai Sadecha lo tetzva v'chamaka lo tetzmo Eit zafiach katziracha lo tekso V'eit nevei netziracha lo tekso Shanat Shabbaton yeh la'aretz V'hayata Shabbat ha'aretz lachem le'ochla lecha ula'avdeka v'la'ametecha v'lizkiracha ula'toshavecha hagarim imak v'lifahemtecha v'lachaya asher ba'asecha Tihye kol mitzvota le'akol V'safata lecha Sheva Shabbatot hashanim Sheva shanim Sheva pa'amim V'hayu lecha Yomei Sheva Shabbatot hashneim Tesha v'aba'im shana והבאת שופר תרועה בחודש השביעי בעשור לחודש ביום הכיפורים תעבירו שופר בכל עשיכם וקידשתם את שנה 50 שנה וקראתם דרור בארץ לכל ישביה יובל היא תהיה לכם ושבתם איש אל אחוזתו ואיש אל משפטו תשובו יובל היא שנת 50 שנה תהיה לכם לא תצבעו ולא תגזרו את שפיכיה ולא תפצעו את נציריך כי יובל היא קודש תהיה לכם מן השדה תאכלו את תבואתה בשנת היובל הזאת תשובו איש אל הסוסתו.
Asher Koya. Really good, really. So I think you're reading the translation for us. So.
Yes, but shall we get people to come up first and have a look at it?
Yes, maybe. Okay, if you want to come up and have a look at this
those of
scroll.
you who've never seen a Torah scroll before, my friends and family, please come up and have a look. It's weird, apparently.
Unforgiving, yeah?
Very weird. Am I over there? Hi, Dex. Yeah, you can stand up there. So that's all the Hebrew, so that's what I just read. Cool, that.
She read back from here.
You've seen a photo of it, yeah, but this is the real thing, darling. Yeah? Okay. Do you want to come and stand here, Alia? No, be careful, don't touch it. Okay, so I read it from... That's where I read it from, just up there. Okay. Come on up. Dad, you've seen a Torah scroll before.
Now, is it vellum or pot?
Sorry?
Is it vellum or pot?
I don't know.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, basically.
So have you read what they really...
No, but I'll explain that because it should have been in May, so we're out of sync. But the scrolls were already. Yeah. Yeah.
So, next time is that bit?
Well, no, because I'm reading out of sync, but it should be. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, of course.
Scrolls go in it, that are...
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you read it?
It's just like you learn it. I've been learning Hebrew for 3 years. So. Yeah.
That's like your music thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Music. How old is this scroll?
How old is this scroll? Linda, how old is the scroll? How old is this?
Translating that for anyone that doesn't understand.
Wow.
I personally got
If you
it,
check
but
300.
300
years.
300 years old.
Maybe not.
But we keep it stored and, we don't open it very often, so that's also one of the things.
So you will only open it on... You don't open it every
I've got another one which is more recent, and this one...
Got an everyday scroll, yeah.
Yeah, an everyday scroll, and a bit of a special scroll for a special day.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the number of...
Yes.
So it's from.
So where's this from?
It's from Czechoslovakia.
From Czechoslovakia. So it was actually rescued from during the so
well, it was put high, but then it was mouldering and then that's amazing.
so someone had hidden it.
Well,
No, it was the Nazis. They wanted to do a museum in Prague, and they collected. Is it this one? No, sometimes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So kind of a Geniza. Okay.
That's amazing. That is a proper piece of history. Incredible. Wow. Sorry, we're holding it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But universal person. I'm hungry, so. No, take your time.
Shouldn't have invited so many people.
I've seen a lot of that. Yes, I know. Skiing.
I suppose like anything else you've never seen and just don't understand, where do you actually start to make sense of it?
No, not with it. Instead of eating the sacrifice, instead of eating the mitzvah. Yeah, which is in a way.
I'm just being told.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say this now because you did really.
I mean, the great thing about Leviticus.
Oh, thank you. I've got my Devar Torah to do in a minute.
Oh, wait, no.
Wise words. Yeah, that's it.
I've got a question for Nick.
Okay. All right. I will answer what It's amazing stuff.
You're going round again? Oh, you're just going round.
Ideas and different ways.
Me again.
It just means kind of.
That's a hundred.
Yes, absolutely.
That's crazy.
300 years old. It was rescued from Czechoslovakia. So the Nazis had basically, all these scrolls and wanted to do whatever, and then they were rescued after the war. And there's lots of symbols around the UK. We've got 3 of them.
Oh, sitting on the chair.
It's really. I don't know whether you're
Apparently I made a mistake. Oh yeah, of course you do, Ricky. Sorry, Ricky was.
Because you do the next. You do the next with it. Yeah.
When do you do conversions? Today on a Sunday?
Right, okay, so now Right.
Okay, so you're doing the Akbar now. No?
Oh, is that now, or is that, does Carmen do the translation first?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Where is Carmen?
Carmen's there.
Okay.
Right, we need to bring this back into order. Okay, and now my daughter Carmen is going to read the translation of what I just learned in Hebrew.
The Eternal spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I am giving you, the land shall observe a Shabbat of the Eternal. 6 years you may sow your field, and 6 years you may prune your vineyard and gather in the yield. But in the 7th year the land shall have a Shabbat of complete rest, a Shabbat of the Eternal. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. You shall not reap the aftergrowth of your harvest or gather the grapes of your untrimmed vines. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land, but you may eat whatever the land during its Shabbat will produce. You, your male and female slaves, the hired and bound labourers who live with you, and your cattle and the beasts in your land may eat all its yield. You shall count off 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the period of 7 weeks of years gives you a total of 49 years. Then you shall sound the horn loud. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, the day Yom Kippur, you shall have the horn sounded throughout your land. And you shall hallow the 50th year. You shall proclaim release throughout the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to his holding, and each of you shall return to his family. That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow, neither shall you reap the aftergrowth or harvest the untrimmed vines, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You may only eat the growth direct from the field. In this year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to his holding.
Thank you. So let's have a blessing after.
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natah b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Please stand. We're on page 18 with the Agba, which is raising the scrolls. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Yes. Please be seated. Simo and Sandra are coming, and then you do your bit.
You're doing I'm doing like a Haftarah, and then you're doing the... Yeah.
The yad comes first, actually.
Oh, the yad comes first. Oh.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry.
You have to listen to your rabbi.
Yes, Sandra.
I know Pfertzel. You see, I was right.
It's a miracle. Thank you both. Right, so before I start my Devar Torah, I would just like to take the opportunity to say thank you to everyone for being here today. Thank you in particular to my family and friends. I know some of you have never been in a synagogue before and didn't know what to expect. They're all like this, I promise you. And I'd like to also thank all of my friends from KLS who have made me so welcome since I joined the community 3 years ago and haven't really looked back since. And obviously, I think a very special thank you to Rabbi René, although I haven't heard his sermon yet. But no, in all seriousness, I may or may not thank you later. Okay, so the Jews in the room will be wondering, why Behar? And the non-Jews may be wondering, what is Behar? So to answer the second question first, Behar is my chosen Torah portion. As Rabbi René said earlier, in synagogues we read a section or portion of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, throughout the year. Each Shabbat has a name, the name of the specific portion which refers to certain verses in the Torah. My chosen portion is called Behar, which means on the mountain, and covers Leviticus verses 25:1 to 26:2, of which I read the first 13 verses from the scroll just now. Now, in the annual cycle of Torah readings, this portion would normally be read in May. Hence the Jews here wondering why I have read it today in the middle of October. So now to answer the first question. Well, it may have escaped people's notice, I'm a little older than 13. The age at which boys and girls in the liberal Jewish tradition normally become bar or bat mitzvah. When I decided to have an adult bat mitzvah, Rabbi René told me to choose my favourite Torah portion. Now, this was somewhat overwhelming because I can't say that I had or have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the 54 portions. Sorry, Rabbi. So I decided to find out what portion I would have read had I had my bat mitzvah at the age of 13, and it would have been Behar. Now, this was back in September 2019, just over 2 years ago. And at that time, on reading the portion, I discovered that it introduces the subject of the Jubilee year, which occurs every 50 years. Behar would next fall the following May 2020, at which point I would have just turned 49 and therefore have just entered my own 50th or Jubilee year. So it seemed perfect. The portion was chosen and a date was set. However, as one of my favourite Hebrew sayings goes, man plans and God laughs. 2 years later, having lived through my 50th year and now well into my 51st, I stand here today tasked with sharing my reflections on this portion and how we can find relevance in it today. In Behar, God tells Moses that during the Jubilee year, liberty should be proclaimed throughout the land, all slaves should be freed, and everywhere should return to their original holdings or homes. A month before the start of my own 50th year, we were also told to go home and stay there. Liberty was not proclaimed, it was denied. We were told that we were only allowed to leave our homes under certain circumstances. That such restrictions on our freedoms have occurred in our lifetimes was unimaginable just 2 years ago. And of course, these restrictions were put in place as emergency measures designed to save lives. And by and large, people recognised, accepted, and abided by these. Freedom and the home. Two concepts central to my portion, and two concepts which have been central to all of us over the past 18 months. In Behar, the concept of freedom applies to the slaves, who must be set free during the Jubilee year, just as the founding narrative of the Jewish people, the Exodus from Egypt, is also about freedom from slavery. In some ways, the instruction in Behar could be seen as a microcosm of this founding narrative. Slaves released from slavery and everyone told to go home, or led to their homeland. And when we tell the Exodus story each year at Pesach, we make this connection ourselves. Next year in Jerusalem, or next year at home. Freedom from slavery is the most fundamental of freedoms. But freedom can obviously be so much more than just this. In 1941, at a time when millions of our people were once again facing the eradication not only of their freedoms, but also their lives, President Roosevelt spoke of 4 essential freedoms, as he said, to make secure our future days. Freedom of speech and expression, freedom of every person to worship God in their own way, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. The last 2 of these, freedom from want and freedom from fear, can be summed up in one of my favourite biblical verses. They shall all sit under their own vine and under their own fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid. It is the word own here which provides the 2 freedoms, from want and from fear. It is the security of owning the trees, and by implication the land on which they grow, and therefore a home, that provides the freedom, both from want, the trees provide food, and fear, ownership provides security. Now, as I said, during the last 18 months, our freedoms to leave our homes, these places of security, has been restricted. Those of us lucky enough to own our own homes may have been free from want over this time, but this ownership did not free us from fear, the fear of getting ill ourselves or of losing our loved ones. But these restrictions were put in place to protect others, reminding us that being part of a society in which we are free to achieve ownership and security also brings certain responsibilities. Sometimes to protect freedoms, freedoms need to be restricted. But of course, in authoritarian regimes, these restrictions can go way too far. And the last 18 months have been a really difficult balancing act for policymakers. And we have seen around the world differing responses to the crisis, some of which have come closer to authoritarianism than others. But I don't want to comment on the rights and wrongs of the decisions made about the lockdown. I don't want this debatoire to resemble my Twitter feed. Rather, I now want to move on and consider these freedoms and responsibilities on a more personal level. My home, full of books, clutter, music, a garden, and 2 amazing cats, provides me with a huge amount of happiness, security, and sanctuary. But also the responsibilities of taking care of the home and said cats. The freedoms I have enjoyed in my life, growing up in 20th and 21st century Britain, have enabled me to own my own home, and doing so was a positive choice. So, to a large extent, I can say I am free from want, and to some extent from fear. But owning this home means I'm not free to do absolutely anything at any time, even in the absence of the restrictions we have endured over recent months. Nevertheless, in making the choices that enabled me to buy my own home, I also chose the responsibilities that would come with that. And I feel very blessed to have been born at a time and in a place which has allowed me, a woman living independently, to make these choices. My ancestors, in particular my foremothers, whether because of their gender or their Judaism or both, did not have the same freedoms as I have enjoyed. The central part of my portion is verse number 10. Ukarashtem deror ba'aretz lakol yeshveya. You shall proclaim liberty throughout the land for all of its inhabitants. The Hebrew word for liberty in this verse, deror, is also the word for swallow, the bird. Now, in many ways, the bird is a symbol of absolute freedom, the freedom to fly anywhere at any time, as in the Sassoon poem read earlier. But birds build their own homes, their nests, and therefore return to these to furnish them and nourish their young. Psalm 84, How Lovely Is Your Dwelling Place, says that even the sparrow has found a home and the swallow a nest for herself in which to set her young. So provided that we are afforded the fundamental freedoms from slavery or from authoritarian regimes, then perhaps we all seek the security offered by our own homes. And like the birds, we build our nests to nourish our young or our cats. And in doing so, we accept the responsibilities that come with this, not only for the sake of our own, but also for the sake of our fellow human beings sitting under their own vines and fig trees. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. It was brilliant. Really good. Thank you.
I have no idea where we are.
So now on page 18, and
Craig
we have...
and Dad.
After the Torah reading, there's a reading taken from the books of the prophets called the Haftarah, which means conclusion. So we're heading to what's the end of the service. Yeah. So, Craig, please. And you, David, as well.
Yeah, that means you have to come up, Dad. You all right?
No, I'll do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'ratza v'divreihem, henam harim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'torah, uv'moshe avdo, uv'Yisrael amo, uv'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
So this reading is from Isaiah 61, verses 1 to 11. The Spirit of the Eternal is upon me. Because the Eternal has anointed me, God has sent me as a herald of joy to the humble, to bind up the wounded of heart, to proclaim release of the captives, liberation of the imprisoned, to proclaim a year of Eternal's favour and a day of vindication by our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for the mourners in Zion, to give them a turban instead of ashes, the festive ointment instead of mourning, a garment of splendour instead of drooping spirit. They should be called the terebinths of victory, planted by the Eternal for God's glory. And they shall build the ancient ruins, raise up the desolations of old, and renew the ruined cities, the desolations of many ages. Strangers shall stand and pasture your flocks. Foreigners shall be your ploughmen and vine trimmers. While you shall be called priests of the Eternal, and termed servants of our God, who shall enjoy the wealth of nations and revel in their riches. Because your shame was double, men cried, disgrace is their portion. Assuredly, they shall have a double share in their land. Joy shall be theirs for all time. For I, the Eternal, love justice. I hate robbery with burnt offering. I will pay from their wages faithfully and make a covenant with them for all time. The offspring shall be known amongst the nations, the descendants in the midst of peoples, all who should recognize that they are the flock, that they are the stock the Eternal has blessed. I greatly rejoiced in the Eternal. My whole being exalts in my God.
Dad, there's a bit more on the other page. Yeah.
Is the next page this?
Just a little bit. There you go. It's all right, we're nearly done.
I never do that.
Oi.
I haven't touched this bit.
Good luck, everyone.
For God has clothed me with garments of triumph, wrapped in a very, very victory, like a bridegroom adorned with a turban, like a bride adorned with fine clothes. The earth brings forth her growth, and a garden makes the seeds shoot up, so the Eternal will make victory and renown shoot up in the presence of all nations.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik b'kol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer oseh, hamdaber u'mkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek.
Please stand, and I'd like to invite Ricky and Phil to come up and give the civic prayers.
It's okay. Do you want me to hold it? Or are you okay with that? Okay.
Eternal God, whose dominion has embraced the universe, we ask your blessing for all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aim of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants and implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once again the ancient vision that out of Zion shall forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim. So, Louisa, can you give a scroll to Rebecca? Not yet, not yet, not.
Shall I sit down?
No, you stand.
Just so she can pass it to me so I don't drop it.
Tell her to stand to me.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need, maybe you need some?
I do some help from you.
Yes, you need. It's quite. Oops. It's on your right shoulder. If it's okay. Yeah.
That's cool.
Cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm going to make this quick. Huh?
Oh gosh, is this the bit?
No, it's not the bit.
Oh, no, okay.
It's just a blessing is always good.
Okay.
It's after.
Oh, okay.
May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, Jacob, Rachel and Leah, bless Rebecca but David, who came up to read the Torah in honor of God, of Shabbat and a life journey. May the Holy One ever to be praised bring happiness and fulfillment to each and every day of her life. May she be a light for her family, friends and community. Rebecca, you have decided to take up the lives of Judaism that came to you through your father David, and to explore the Jewish tradition in which he was brought up. You have never abandoned the heritage that comes from your mother, and you love your family with all your hearts. Rabbi Devon Spear has written a poem that describes your journey. There is an invisible staff we carry, passed from Jacob during the lifetime of his wrestling to Aaron as he gestured in faithful summoning, calling upon God's wonders to lead us to freedom at the sea. The staff is our certainty, our history and destiny, to make our ancestors' dreams and all our dreams living here today. Neither the force of angels nor the hardened heart of Pharaoh could ever halt its passing through the generations. By the staff, we know that our redemption is not only possible, but palpable, burnt into memory and real. From the staff we behold the most precious of all Jewish continuities, that our ancestors, like our future, exist within us. Ken Yeh Ratzon, may it be God's will. And let us say, Amen. We're on page 21, so you can open now the ark. לקח טוב נתתי לכם, תורתי, אל תעזובו, עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכי המאושר, דרכי ידך נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. Hashimenu Adonai Elecha V'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Ekedem Please be seated, and now you can sit as well. Yeah, it's a moment of...
Uh-oh.
So I know that Rebecca is super stressed now. What is he going to say? I can reassure you only good things. I keep the rest for later, yes. So as Rebecca explained to you, she read from the book of Leviticus because of COVID, and the actual Parashat for this Shabbat is called Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha is the third Parashat of the Torah portion of the book of Genesis, and it's the story that shows how God called Abraham to Lech Lecha, to go forth, to go and to leave his home on his journey. When I was a student at Leobeck College, a student rabbi at Leobeck College in North London, we had the visit of Rabbi Shoshana Boyd Gelfand, and she came to us to talk about sermon writing. There is a science, homiletics about that, would you believe it or not? She was at the time leader of a reform movement, She said two things that really impressed me greatly. The first, she said, we are all Jews by choice. Whether born Jewish, with one or two Jewish parents, or converted to Judaism, we all make a conscious choice to be part of a community or to remain part of a community. And being Jewish is indeed being on a journey that we have chosen. She said another thing in the same conversation which really stayed in my mind. She said that each rabbi writes a unique sermon that is delivered in many ways, and each of us has a specific parasha or Torah portion that speaks directly to the heart. She went on asking, what's your parasha? The one that speaks to you personally. I didn't have to think long to respond. My parasha is Lech Lecha, today's parasha. And I will explain you why, and I will explain why it's really timely. Yours as well. Okay, you see. So it starts with Lech Lecha me'artzecha mimoladetecha mibeit avicha el haaretz asher ar'eka. I can't say the whole Torah, don't worry. I know just a few verses. But this one I think is so profound. Lech Lecha, go forth. What did I say after? Do you remember what I said? Me'artzecha, from your land, mi beit avicha, from the house of your parents, from the place where you were born, to the country, to the land that I will show you. So the text doesn't simply lech. Lech in Hebrew means go. It's an imperative. Lech, and go. So you can use it even when you want to tell someone of lech. Just zuz, lech. But in the biblical passage, we have lech lecha, go forth, go towards you, go towards yourself or for yourself. This call to Abraham marks the start of our forebears' journey in the ancient Middle East. But these voyages are not mere moves from one physical place to the other, but they are a journey of self-discovery, lech lecha. They went somewhere to discover who they really were. I would like to invite you a moment to think about your lech lecha moment. Think about maybe an account, someone you met, a word you've heard, an image you saw, or a thought that changed completely your direction. And if you think, we all have these lech lecha moments, these moments in our lives when you say, oh yes, this is it. I want to do that now. If you haven't had this kind of clear moment, do you remember when you decided to take the first step of your life that led us all here today? Because think about, all these people here, about 60, 70 people in this sanctuary today, in this synagogue, all coming from, you could actually, draw threads to see where you come from, not just yesterday, but, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and see why we're here today. I think things happen for a reason. And of course, I'm thinking of you, Rebecca, whom I met for the first time, I think it was June 2018. June 2018. She came here in my office. I've got a little office which looks like more a cave than an office, but it's very cozy, it's very warm, it's nice. She came here and she explained that her dad is Jewish and she always felt Jewish and she wanted now to make it official, to affirm. And just, when you do a bar or bat mitzvah, it's an affirmation of Jewish status. When you speak in public and you present what you've been doing, it's an affirmation of Jewish status. And it's true that often it feels like we are making choices that are not always conscious. Sometimes we have expectations that our parents had over us, of a natural flow of our life that gave us the taste of a kind of a seamless journey. But sometimes we hear this little voice. We hear this little voice that say, go, lech lecha, go forth, go, follow your impulse, trust your guts, and become who you're supposed to be. That is what Abraham heard at the age of 75. 75 was Abraham. So it's never too late. Certainly not 50, it's not late at all. So back to my question, why are we here today? Of course, we wouldn't miss Rebecca's bat mitzvah. But it's not just simply a social occasion with bubbles. I know that there are loads of bubbles waiting for you later, so I'm going to keep it short because I'm sure you all have a dry throat at this stage. But it's also for us together a spiritual experience. We are not here for the same reason or the same purpose, but it's fair to say that there are many ways to live a spiritual life. Let's start with Abraham and Moses, two archetypal figures of religious experience. Moses was the lawmaker. Moses was the one who established a fair and just society as desired by God. He relentlessly explained to the children of Israel what their purpose on earth was. And more than often, he was met with sighs and moaning. And I think Moses is an excellent example for a Jewish leader because, leadership is not easy. We all know that for those who are in position of leadership. But leadership in the Jewish community is really difficult because Jews moan a lot. Let's go to Abraham now. Abraham is a traveler. For Abraham, religious life is a journey. And that is exactly what we see at the first of the opening words of Lech Lecha. But he also had to face many trials. Remember when God said, go and sacrifice your son. That was a big thing to ask. That teaches us that life is a journey, of course, with many twists and turns. Later, we have the prophets of Israel, who became the advocates for social justice. They called on the kings of Israel and Judah to mend their ways and to correct the injustice that existed in their society. For them, their religious commitment led to an engagement with social justice and a call to do something to change the society for the best. So these people, Abraham, Moses, and the prophets represent, I believe, three types of religious experience. So as we just saw, there are those who consider that religious commitment compels them to act to make the world a better place. And as you know, many Jews are involved in social justice, community building, and social activism. There are those who believe that the religious path is to observe faithfully and carefully all the rules that are in the Torah in order to structure their lives and to live according to God's will. Observing God's commandment, and in Hebrew God's mitzvot, shapes their lives and gives them a sense of fulfillment and security. And finally, there are those who see primarily the religious experience as a spiritual journey towards the self. They see the commitment to God as a journey towards self-discovery, a quest for their real purpose in life, their mission on earth, and then, only then, will they be able to be fully present in the world. It doesn't need to be either or. It can be a mix that evolves over the years. External circumstances, personal traumas, the desire of the heart in a specific moment, all these may lead a person to one side of a religious journey. And one of the strengths of a religious experience is that it doesn't need to be consistent. Once in life, we don't need to be consistent. Each day is different from the other. Therefore, our responses change. What is crucial, nevertheless, is to be genuine and honest. We need to feel that what happens inside is congruent with our presence in the world. If one uses religion to advance a career or to indulge in their own failures, then it's not a religious and spiritual journey, it's something else. Being a person of faith doesn't make life easier. First, you need to understand what or who you believe in. Is that so simple? Who or what is God? How much can I trust my emotions, my guts, but there is something else? What happens when life contradicts my beliefs? When bad things happen to good people? Being atheist is not simple either. Even if one decides that what we see is only what there is, that after death there is nothing else than an eternal void and nothing else, One has to build a set of values to live by. One has to find reasons to wake up every morning and to get on with their lives. So, Rebecca, I don't know which part you relate the most, probably a bit of all of them, but you're certainly a religious person in the sense that you love people, you relate to people, you connect to people, and that's what religion means, connection. You contribute immensely to the life of your community. So, as I was thinking about what I wanted to say today about Rebecca, because it's a bit of a grilling and roasting of us an adult bat mitzvah, I thought maybe I should ask Ricky, the son-in-law. Maybe he could give me some embarrassing stories, anecdotes that would make us laugh. But I found, it's a synagogue, so maybe later you can tell me privately some embarrassing situations. I thought, no, I'm going to leave him because you just became Rebecca's son-in-law and I don't want to ruin that. So I thought maybe I should go and talk to the daughter, Carmen. Huh? You know, Jews, we are nosy. We love to know everything. But I thought it would be unfair on Carmen. And maybe Rebecca as well. And then, what about your parents? Huh? Well, they certainly know what it means to be Rebecca's mom and dad. But because they're here today, I guess it must not be that bad. So, David, you can tell me in confidence later if it's that bad or not. I have a lot of time, yes. So I thought, okay, stop hiding behind others and think, who is Rebecca for you? So she explained that, she came along, in June 2018. So less than, I would say, a year into her membership, she became deputy chair, social media officer, a leading voice in the marketing team of a community, a pianist for our services. She's podcasting with Liberal Judaism, working on broadcasting also the services online, and she's a pillar of a community in less than 2 years. And I know that, you told me that, your friends won't be surprised to know that. Rebecca is a doer. She's a macher, as we say in Yiddish. She's someone who does things. The first time I met you, Rebecca, I had a strong sense of a natural leader you are. You've got, I think it's a natural feature or characteristic of you. You made life choices that are simply remarkable, ensuring your livelihood, as you mentioned during your own Dvar Torah. And then, when this was done, so there's a clear understanding of what life is about, you pursued your dream of becoming a piano teacher. I was a bit worried that your enthusiasm might lead to be overburdened, but you told me, don't worry, I know when to say no. And indeed she does. She knows exactly when to say no. Rebecca is vocal. Very, very vocal. She doesn't hide what she thinks. And how many meetings online I saw Rebecca's face frowning because she was unhappy about something like this. You know this face, my friend. So it's not something that is new to you. But she learned over the years to tackle one of the biggest challenges, impatience. Right? Right. So we did some work on the soul traits, which in Hebrew is called musar. So you have to think about the balance of your different soul traits, and one of them is patience. And I remember when we talked about patience and the contrary, impatience, it was like, oh yes, this is me. I can be so impatient. Yeah, you won't be surprised if I tell you that sometimes Rebecca can be irritated, let's use this word, just irritated if things are not going fast enough. But she's working, she's a fast learner. We can feel when Rebecca enters the room or the synagogue. This is why I never ask you anything about your mom. I think it was probably safe. So when Rebecca enters the room, we feel her. She brings her all this energy, but positive energy. Positive energy that radiates immediately. You can't miss Rebecca in a room. And there's also your laughter. We need to do something about it.
I get it from him.
Okay. So I'm always worried because when you start laughing, I'm looking at the windows. Are they going to, stay? I have the glasses. Everything brings. It's a bit like we talked about Revelation earlier. It's a bit like God's thunder at Mount Sinai during the Revelation. You can't escape. You can't escape it. But there is much love and happiness in your life. And you share it with others unreservedly. I have to say, I bless the day you cross the threshold of the synagogue, because your presence is nothing short from transformative for our community. Your energy, your creativity, your kindness, your generosity have brought so much to Careless. And personally, I've gained a friend, someone reliable I can talk to. And on behalf of the entire community, Rebecca, I would like to thank you for being here with us today and for being with us today and every day, for bringing so much to Careless, and also for sharing with us this very special day of yours, your bat mitzvah, when you confirm before your family, your friends, and your community the choice you've made over 3 years ago. So now the next time you can have another bat mitzvah is when you reach 80. Yeah? So let's all put, the 80th, Rebecca's 80th birthday in our calendar, and we'll meet again then. Mazel tov, Rebecca, and may you continue to shine and to transform people's lives until you've reached 120. Can you that? Shabbat shalom. Told you I wouldn't be too bad, huh? Okay, so among many things that Rebecca does, she also composes. Okay? So she composed music from a text which we can find on page 22, which is a poem written by Rabbi Judith Chicago. I don't know if she was a rabbi, actually. She wasn't a rabbi. She's an artist. She's an artist, okay. So artist Judith Chicago.
Oh, I see. Amazing.
Okay. Okay, so I need to Google her, yes. Everyone writing something good should be a rabbi, no? And then, so it's here, and Careless, you know it already. And then all that's divided us will merge. And then compassion will bend it to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and kind. And then men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then a person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the need of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere we will called Eden once again. So before we go to the Kaddish, I would like to invite Craig to say a few words. I told him that all the stupid jokes have been made already, so we have to.
Don't fall off.
Rebecca, René has told the congregation just how much you have given to this congregation over the last 3 years, and the positive energy that you bring, and it's truly remarkable. And I want to thank you as well for your contribution on council. It's a wonderful to have you in the community, and for all the stuff that you've done as well during the pandemic. You spoke in your very wise Devar Torah about the loss of freedom, and that people in the congregation and the wider world needed that connection with other people, and you're an amazing part of that, of what KLS managed to do for our congregation during that period with your social media videos and all the things that we've done to live stream. Playing piano, so many things that I could rattle off. So, in a way, today is an affirmation publicly of your Judaism. We know you're very much Jewish from everything that you've done, but it's good that you've gone through the pain of preparing for this day, and as a token of our gratitude and our congratulations on this day. It's a little gift.
Thank you.
And Mazel Tov.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yelanu, 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 Ulechol Israel, Yelanu, Yelanu, Ulechol Israel, Yelanu, Yelanu, Ulechol Israel. Right, so now we are going to finish with a Kaddish on page 23. I will ask you to stand, please.
There are stars whose radiance is visible on earth, though they have long been extinct. There are people whose brilliance continues to light the world, though they are no longer among the living. These lights are particularly bright when night is dark. They light the way for humanity. And I would like to take this moment to remember my grandparents. My maternal grandparents, Robert and Dorothy Nyman, who I was lucky enough to have in my life until I was an adult. My paternal grandpa, Henry, who I just about remember. He died when I was a little girl. And my maternal grandma, Queenie. What a fantastic name.
So this is where it comes from.
This is totally where it comes from.
Okay, oh gosh, that's a revelation. Queenie, that's your name now.
Well, that's what Dad has always said. Unfortunately, I never knew her. She died just before I was born. But apparently, I'm similar to her. And hopefully, she would be proud of me today.
And for the community, on this Shabbat, we remember Henry Mendelssohn, the father of Andrew and grandfather of Zoe. Remember Samuel Brose, the grandfather of Louisa Michelson. George Tihani, the father of Mariah Rollin and Peter Tihani. Toria Zadeh, the mother of Jamshid Zadeh. And Harry Fisher, the father of Mimi Zadeh. Is there any other name you would like to remember before we say the Kaddish together? Yes.
My mother, Flora Weisman.
Flora Weisman. Zichronam livracha. May their memory be a blessing for us. And we say together on page 23, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתבהר וישתבר ויתפאר ויתחומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ביחתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה. וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. Please be seated for one last song and then we can go.
Bubbles.
מה יפה היום, שבת שלום. מה יפה היום, שבת שלום. שבת, שבת שלום. שבת, שבת שלום. שבת, שבת שלום. Shabbat Shalom. Please stand. Our God and God of ancestors, bless us with threefold benediction of the Torah. Yevarech Adonai ve'ishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. And let us say,
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom to you. Watch us online. Have a lovely Shabbat. Bye-bye.
Should we do a few?